Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Both Mom and I are excited for you to join us for another week, and we're super excited. We have Theresa Reed, the tarot lady, with us on today. And she was back on with us on episode 133, where we talked about all things tarot. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. And so, Theresa, it's really nice to have you back on with us.
So good to see you, Kim and Barb. It's been a pleasure to reconnect. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody didn't catch the last episode, can you give a little bit of your bio just so they know who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Theresa Reed. I'm better known as the Tarot Lady. I am a tarot reader for many years, astrologer for many years, and I'm the author of a ton of books and currently working on one right at this moment. I love to teach. I love to talk about tarot, astrology, all those things. And I live in the mighty fine, not horrible state of Wisconsin.
That's excellent. Well, yeah, good. So so do you want to talk about your last book that you did then?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm currently working on one, but I have a book that's actually coming out on May 4th of this year, 2026. And that book is called The Book of Astrological Returns, Every Life Cycle from the Sun to Pluto. And it is a book that I wanted to write because at the time I was going through my second Saturn return. And there are books on Saturn returns, but they mostly focus on like the first Saturn return that happens when you're in your 20s. And I'm like, well, why isn't there something for women of a certain age? I would like to know more about this instead of just living it. And I was also going through a Jupiter return, and I wasn't finding really great information on that, even though I've gone through multiple Jupiter returns. But, you still want to look stuff up. And the United States had just gone through a Pluto return. So there was all this return energy. It was like in my face. And I thought, why couldn't there just be a book that gave you a concise intro to each one and how to read these return charts so that you could understand them and how to work with them and when to work with them? And I was talking to my publisher about it, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to write the book. Forget about it. I'll just do it. And so that is what spurred it. That book was hard to write, too. It was a lot of research and a lot of work. But it's coming out on May 4th. I'm really proud of it. And I think it is going to be very good for people who are newer to astrology or intermediate. But even old hats like me are going to find new information there, too.
Wonderful. Well, I'm curious because I'm actually just going into my second Saturn return. So when you said that, is there a difference between your first return and your second return then, would be my question.
Well, let's talk about the three Saturn returns because you can experience three.
Okay.
Because, modern medicine, we're living a lot longer. My aunt is 103 years old. She's already gone through hers. But the first Saturn return happens right when you're about the age of 27 to 28. And by the way, Saturn returns last for about 2.5 years each time. And the first one means, hey, your childhood is officially over. You got to start adulting. So a lot of people in their first Saturn return, they complete college, or maybe they find their partner or decide to have a child or really get serious about their career. For some also who are late bloomers, they feel compelled to get their act together. And sometimes the first Saturn return can be hard because we don't have the maturity and the wisdom. It's a time where we gain wisdom and gain maturity. So there can be a lot of mistakes that you make along the way and challenges. But if you lean into it and take responsibility, it's an opportunity to really grow. So the second Saturn return happens right around the age of like 58. And once again, it's 2.5 years. Now the second Saturn return says, you're at the pinnacle now. You've achieved a lot. This is a time where you are transitioning into the role of the wise elder now. So it's a time to take stock of your accomplishments and also your bucket list of things you still want to do. And to also look at, how you can pass the baton. And, and also to be proud of your work. A lot of people, when they come into their second Saturn return, they're in their best earning years. And so this could be a time where you're planning for retirement, you're planning for your next chapter, your golden years. Second Saturn return, though, can bring up like health concerns. That's often a time where people find themselves, oh my God, I've got this health issue now. And I found out I have really high cholesterol, which I didn't like, by the way. I found that in my second Saturn return. But, it's a time where health concerns can become something that you need to contend with. A lot of us start dealing with heavy responsibilities with our parents. Sometimes, depending on where you are in life, too, it could be a time where maybe you're accepting some new losses in your life and processing that. But really, it's a sense that you're becoming the wise elder. You're moving into the golden years. And so you really want to think about planning for that. The third Saturn return happens when you're around 90 years of age. And that means it is time for you to take stock of everything. This is time for you to make those apologies if you need to. It's a time to write down your stories, to leave your legacy behind. It's time to think about your legacy. What am I leaving behind? And to prepare for the next journey, which is death. Which, by the way, our culture really has a death phobic thing. We don't treat it with reverence. We treat it with a lot of fear. But if we really work with these cycles, the third Saturn return is a time that can be very meaningful as we really get everything organized and set everybody else up right. And again, think about the stories and the legacies we're leaving behind. So in each of those Saturn returns, we're coming into different levels of maturity. They're transitional. We go into adulthood, wise elder, and we prepare for the next lifetime.
I love that. Well, good to know. And that actually kind of tracks because I just turned 50. What did I turn? 57? Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, 57. That's what I turned. I know. Well, it's just a number, right, to me, so I don't think about it a lot. But I just turned 57, and I find a lot of what you were saying really tracks for me because I'm looking at retirement. I'm looking at, moving my career in a different direction, all those kind of things. So it's good. I'm on track, so that's good.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that for me, what some of the things are, again, preparing for retirement is my big thing. I'm like laser focused on it. But also, it's a time of really letting go of what doesn't matter. I just let go of some people, some groups, and made a very big pivot with my career. I'm like, okay, now we really want to focus on writing and teaching and not doing in-person teaching, doing online teaching because it suits me better. And really being able to say no to the things that don't light me up and not feel like I have to apologize or explain or justify it. So it's also a time where I don't want to say you come into your own, but you just feel more empowered to make those changes if you want to, and to eliminate the things and people that are just not healthy for you any longer. Why hold on to that?
Yeah, just take a full stock of your life kind of thing. So I'm interested. You were talking about the United States coming into the Pluto return. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm assuming that's very much about potentially chaos and those kind of things.
Going on right
Well,
now.
here's the thing with the United States. Our Pluto, the United States of Pluto is in Capricorn. So it's actually completed it. And it was, I think it's 27 degrees Capricorn. And Pluto stays in a sign for about 15, 20 years. And when it's in, a sign, because it's slow moving, you want to think of it like a slow cultural change. And so when our Pluto return began, we got our first African American president. We got Barack Obama. And I thought, well, this is going in a good direction. We're getting a Black president. This is progress. It fits the multicultural world we live in. So I was feeling pretty stoked about at that time. But one thing I want to backtrack to, a lot of times what I like to say about astrology is theory. You kind of have an idea of how things are going to go. Then things happen and it's like, oh my God. So I knew that, when the Pluto return arrived, that even though there was some signs like, okay, we're going to see some big progress, we could also see there was a lot of resistance to that, a tremendous amount of resistance. And well, look at where we are now. The resistance to that was incredibly strong. And when I did the United States Pluto return chart, what's really interesting about not the transits, the Pluto return chart, it shows that, Pluto, by the way, doesn't come back to Capricorn for another 250 years. Empires fall every 250 years.
Mm.
So what was interesting is when I looked at the chart, I'm like, wow, it's got a Capricorn ascendant now. And it's got Aquarius, but Aquarius is intercepted. So what that's telling me is that going forward, as we come out of that, we're putting on a more powerful conservative face, but there is revolution that's brewing under the surface. And the interesting thing is now that Pluto's in Aquarius, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the American Revolution and the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. And when I talk about this book being about life cycles, we are coming right back around to another cycle. And so we just got a little Pluto return. And when we think about the Pluto return, when our country was founded, our country wasn't actually founded, it was stolen, let's be honest. And England staked a claim and said, this is the way it's going to be. And then we turned against England and established our, Declaration of Independence, yada, 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 our freedom from them. But who are the people that started that? Who are the people that signed the Declaration of Independence? They were wealthy white men, and many of them were slave owners. And so we really want to think about that. And so when you looked then at the Saturn return, what were we, or not the Saturn return, the Pluto return, what were we fighting for? Well, we knew we were going to be fighting for something, but we didn't know what. And it turns out we're fighting for a democracy. And we're also recognizing that we have a bunch of white men now, and I'm not trying to diss anybody, by the way, that have this ungodly amount of wealth and are doing everything to dismantle democracy and to, really create this huge gap between the rich and the poor. And they're doing a lot of things that aren't really, really good. But now that Pluto's in Aquarius, what we're going to be seeing is the possibility of revolution. And revolution doesn't always look the way people think it looks. I mean, sometimes it can be like a war, it can be bloody. Sometimes it's not, just people rising up and voting and getting smarter. So I never anticipated that we'd come out of the Pluto return fighting for democracy. I just couldn't envision that we would ever be in this place, that we would be going back to the 1930s. And even though there were the signs there astrologically, again, there's part of you that looks at it and says, well, that can't happen. That's bananas. But again, empires fall every 250 years. The U.S. is in a state right now of free fall, and our democracy is really weak. But we're also watching people really step up and fight for it. And so we, the people now, we have to really think about taking the power to the people. Because originally, when you think about the United States, they thought they were taking the power away from England. There would be no kings. But now we have someone who's acting like a king. Mm-hmm. So we're right back to where we started. And so once again, it is going to require the people to stand up and say enough and to really put in new safeguards, which Pluto and Aquarius is very good at, to protect democracy so we don't end up in this position again.
Interesting. So
it's very fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And I love how it draws on history, because that's the one thing about astrology is because, right, you can pinpoint these different things. And so knowing that you can see these cycles that will potentially repeat themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you can even see this in your own Saturn return. You get your Saturn return chart, but you also get your transits too. And my first Saturn return, so my Saturn's in the 5th house. That has a lot to do with love and our creativity and also, our children. And my first Saturn return, I was having a lot of disagreements with my first husband over the children. So during that time, we were doing a lot of bickering, but we came out of it then. We started becoming friends, and we're doing great then. And then when the second Saturn return came along, one of my children was going through this terrible dramatic situation, and I had to once again step in and really do some parenting, even though the child is a full-grown adult. And so here I am, I'm parenting. There's a lot of intensity and stuff to work on. So once again, parenting was a big focus, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So again, history, I think Mark Twain might have said this, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And so we can see, again, when we look at these life cycles, we can see, okay, what issues coming back around. And even for the United States, what issues are coming around. We have to think about, do we want a king ruling over us? That's what we tried to get away from 200 some years ago. Why are we back to that same position? Obviously, somebody wants to learn a lesson, I guess. So it's really fascinating, actually.
So would that be then like globally, would that be like any country could look back at what happened in the past
Yes.
to say, this is potentially what is going to happen this year for our
Yes.
country. So,
The only thing is with when we look at charts for countries, you could do like a Neptune return and a Pluto return for a city, a country, or a business. Okay, but a lot of times we don't have the exact time of birth.
hmm,
And so there's again, that's why again, there can be some wiggle room for interpretation. With the United States, we have a Sibley chart, and so that's named after the person who constructed it and figured it out. And so that's the one we generally use. And it actually makes a lot of sense when you look at the history of the United States. So it makes sense. But for a lot of countries and cities, there's not an exact time. So that makes returns a little tricky. But you
yeah,
can still get some ideas
right.
about the themes that that country might be experiencing. And one of the interesting things for us with the United States, when you look at the transits, because Pluto's in the second house, which is the house of money, one of the big things that came out of this Pluto return was the gap between rich and poor got massive. We are like back to the Gilded Age. It's like we are in the Gilded Age, the Hunger Games, Wag the Dog, all of this stuff, put together. And that is probably where we need to be in order to get to the next level of progress, which is going to happen, just not the way we anticipated.
Yeah. Well, and that's I find it so interesting with just the way that it comes like that, like how we can track these different places in our lives and, understand. And so that's great that you're bringing out this book to deal with these returns so that people can take a look at that and how that's actually going to affect them or potentially maybe
Yeah.
the situations around you.
Well, the wonderful thing is when you understand like the transits and these returns, you can, I mean, we're never totally prepared for everything in the world. I wish we could be. I wish I knew everything. I don't. But when we have an idea, then it's like, okay, this now I've got a little game plan here. And I know that this cycle is going on. So maybe during the Saturn return, I'm going to get serious. I'm going to knuckle down, try to avoid that cholesterol meds. Or maybe, I'm going to make different choices. Or, oh, I'm in a Jupiter return. Well, I'm going to look at those opportunities and expand on them. So, it really gives you some awareness of the energy that's operating around you. And hopefully we make good decisions once we are aware of that energy.
Hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So it'd be really interesting for a couple to get it done too, that we're going to get married or something, to find out how that association was going to be for them and what's coming down the road for them. So it'd be something
Yeah,
that would be, yeah.
it could be very helpful. And here's a lot of different ways it could be used. For a couple, first of all, a couple should get their natal charts done. A natal chart can tell you, how you could be a better partner, because once you understand how your partner operates and vice versa, you can figure out how to communicate a lot better. I think it can be something that can give a lot of guidance. Same with parents. If you have your child's astrology chart, you have some information that can help you. By the way, I planned both of my children by astrology, and both children came early, so they didn't go according to my plan. But it was interesting. They're very, very different children, very different charts. And my mother used to get mad at me, and she would say, you're treating them both very differently. She thought I was like favoring one over the other. I'm like, no, they're very different. They need different things.
Right.
And, needless to say, I'm very close to my children. We are like peas in a pod. But yeah, you can use it for relationships. And also, when you look at return charts, you can see, okay, this may be what my partner's going through. How can I support them? How can I be there for him? Or let's say for your child's in school. Maybe you might get a Mercury return chart just to see if they're struggling with their academics, what they might need to better support their learning. So astrology can be preventative. It can be really helpful. And it's all about, again, we're looking at energy, we're looking at patterns and figuring out how to make the most of it. Now, if I was being the astrologer for the president, I would be looking at this Pluto in Aquarius and I'd be like, dude, what you're doing right now, here's what you need to do. You need to really be the person for the people. Pluto's in Aquarius now. Pluto's no longer in Capricorn. Be the president for the people. That's going to be the person who is going to leave a legacy. And the person who's going to win the next election is going to be the person who can be that. Like when I watched what happened in New York with Mom Donnie, I wasn't surprised that he won it all. People were shocked. I'm like, he's doing Pluto and Aquarius really well. I got a feeling this guy's going to do pretty good. And I wasn't surprised at all.
Interesting. Wow. That's very interesting. So could you do astrology then? So like if you create a business, can you use, and you've written some books and things like that. So can you use astrology to maybe hone into when's the best time for you to write a book or be creative?
Yes.
Okay.
So first of all, I am an astrologer for Old Farmers Almanac. I love Old Farmers Almanac. My uncles used to read it. There's always an Old Farmers Almanac in the farmhouse. And so a couple of years ago, I started writing for them, and I am now doing their best days. And that's a feature. I think I have an almanac around here. I've got one around here all the time too. But the best days, basically, you look at different phases of the moon to pick days for when to cut your hair for growth, when to go to a dentist, when to train your pet, when to entertain. So you in the Farmers Almanac, that's a really good guide for the best days for all kinds of activities that you may do in your day-to-day life. But also we can use astrology for other things. My book, Twist Your Fate, talks a lot about astrology for success, how to work with it to create your best career, when to start a business, when to market, things like that. So I use astrology for my business and my writing practice, which may sound bananas to people. But when I started years ago using it for my business, because I was using it all the time for other things, I'm like, gee, I wonder what would happen if I applied some of this to my business. And when I did, my business went gangbusters. It really did well. I knew when to lay low. I know when to market, when to avoid certain things. So I just really roll with that. I also apply to my writing practice. With my writing practice, I use the phases of the moon. So today was a Gemini moon. Let me double check that. At the time that we're recording this, it's a Gemini moon. And we had a Gemini moon yesterday, and I have been writing like a fiend because Gemini moons are great for writing. And, the goal is to get this manuscript done by the end of the week. Now, at the end of the week, the moon is going to be in Leo. We've got a full moon in Leo. So full moons are good for completing things. So I really, really work with the timing of the moon. So again, it's great for business. It's great for getting into your writing flow, but also something as simple as best days. I love to be able to schedule my dental appointments if I can when the moon is in Virgo. It depends on when my dentist is available because I know I'm going to get a good service.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
That's cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. So if you were to do it for your business then, just because I'm curious, the way my brain works, what would you need to know? You need to know the date that you established your business, because
there's a couple different things you can do. You can look at the date you've established your business, and you can use that. If you're an entrepreneur, your business is an extension of yourself. You can use your chart.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, my business is an extension of myself. And so that's what I use when I want to really look at goals. I might look at right now, Jupiter's in my 9th house. This is great for publishing a book, by the way. And so working on a book right now and getting another book published when Jupiter's in my 9th house is all really good energy. It's in my favor. So I might look at something like that. But the other thing is you look at the daily moon. The reason why is the moon rules the public. And so when you're looking at the moon, you can look at, is the public in the mood to buy? Is Venus also in a good alignment with the moon? That would be excellent for PR. And that you don't even need your chart for. You just follow the moon and follow what the planets are doing. I mean, for example, right now we are in Aquarius season. That's really good for updating your technology, making sure you're backing up, doing community building activities, really taking care of your community. Excellent time for that. In the meantime, again, Moon is in Gemini. Not only is it good for writers, Moon in Gemini is good for cleaning out your inbox, finally dealing with that correspondence, returning phone calls, that kind of things. So I can just move with whatever these flows are without even knowing my chart. Just look at the moon, look at the current planets, and lean into it.
I
So
love
with
that.
us being in, with us being in business together, then when we look at each other's charts as well as the business chart.
If you two are in business with each other, I would look at both. I would look at the business chart because you're in business together. If you have the exact time, it's best. And then, look at yourself too. How are you showing up as an entrepreneur? What are some of the things you should work on versus what Kim should work on? You can find ways to make your partnership run smoother. So absolutely. And by the way, today, Moon in Gemini is really great for doing podcasting
Oh, good.
because it's talking.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, see,
Nice.
planned this well accidentally because I don't know astrology that well, but you do.
It's fascinating. And it's really fun too. I mean, my husband says, "Oh, you're just a control freak." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, maybe a little bit." But I like to know what's going on in the planets. I like to play with the energy and see how it rolls out for me. And it is amazing how many times I'll time something and then boom, it works in my favor. Now, for example, I don't time anything. If I have to go into, like, let's say I had to go into a really powerful meeting, I never do it when the moon is in Sagittarius. It doesn't work for me. I know that. So it's like, if I have an important meeting, I'm going to look at that calendar. Oh, moon's in Sag. Can we schedule this a different day? And I want to make sure, if possible, to schedule on a day that's going to benefit me.
Okay. And
Always.
so would that fluctuate depending on what your chart is, then is when you would look
It's
at
very
those?
simple. When it's by your sun sign.
Okay.
So my sun sign is Gemini. So always for me, when something's in Gemini, it's going to be good for me. What sign are you, Kim?
Capricorn.
So you would look at when is the moon in Capricorn, and that would be your power day. And you would use that to schedule important meetings, negotiations, things where you want to be, in charge or shining brightly. And Barb, what sign are you?
I'm a Virgo.
Okay, Virgo. So for you, it's Virgo. Look for when the moon is in Virgo. Not only is the moon in Virgo your power days, but great day to go see the dentist.
There you go, Mom. See, now we know. Well, that I love this because it intrigues me just how much we can find out about our lives to make these different, I don't know, just help a little bit to be able to promote things and to be able to write books and be creative. And because, yeah, I think if we're going with that natural flow of what the
Yeah.
stars and suns and moons are saying, then
Yeah.
Well, astrology has been around for a very long time. It's an ancient art. And people for a very long time have been doing things like lunar gardening. That's what I said. My uncles always had these Farmers Almanac laying around. I remember when I was a kid, I was intrigued with it. I'm like, what are they doing with this book? And I read all the ads in there. And my sister and I would read the recipes. And we'd look at the best days. But, and we were really young. And I'm like, well, I don't want to fish or do any of this stuff. So I thought about it a lot, but didn't do anything until I was, an adult and studying astrology seriously, then really looking at something like the Farmers Almanac and saying, oh, that's what they're doing. There's amazing books about lunar gardening that you can get. And there's a book that's coming out this year that I'm really excited about. And I want to make sure I give the right title, but it's coming out, The Cunning Farmer, I think it is. Let me just look that up really quick because I am super stoked about this book. The Cunning Farmer, Agrarian Magic, I'm probably saying that word wrong, Magical Practices, Mythology and Folklore by Todd Elliott, with an introduction by John Michael Greer. Todd Elliott's a very good writer. He's got a Substack, and I'm super excited about this book. Even though I'm not a farmer anymore, I just like knowing about these things. I'm nosy. I like seeing how other people work with astrology. What are they doing? It's fascinating.
Hmm. It absolutely is. And you have quite a few books on astrology.
I do. I have. I've written out the book I'm writing right now is a book about writing. It's called The Magic Pen. It'll come out in 2027. But my first book was the tarot book, the tarot coloring book. And since that time, I've written multiple books on tarot and a few books on astrology. I wrote a book, Astrology for Real Life, which was a really big seller. It did very well for me. And that's a basic astrology guide. If you're new to astrology, if you're confused, that's the place to start. I break it down in a very friendly way. Then I wrote Twist Your Fate, How to Manifest Success with Astrology and Tarot. And so that shows you like a lot of stuff that I do to really move my career and life in the right direction. Because I always say there's no such thing as a bad chart or bad cards. It's how you work with it. And so the whole idea of Twist Your Fate is look at your chart, look at the transits, and use tarot to find the detours if you don't like the transits. So it's actually very, very simple, and it's what I use all the time. One of the things, for example, in Twist Your Fate, we look at your midheaven to decide how you should show up in the world. And it's quite fascinating. So for me, I'm very introverted. I say I'm a professional extrovert, but I'm extremely introverted. I like to be alone. I like being on my own. I like lots of quiet time. Crowds freak me out. And I get very drained by people. So my preference is to be in my writing room, not dealing with humans as much as possible. However, my midheaven is a Leo midheaven. And the Leo midheaven, Prince has that too. It's a midheaven of people who should be doing something entertaining. And I've got a pretty good wicked sense of humor. And I always say, as much as I'm deeply introverted, if you put a mic in my hand, I come to life. Just like that Warner Brothers frog, if you remember that thing.
Yeah.
And I should. So, I mean, I do Instagram lives. I like to do podcasts. Those are ways where I can entertain, I can educate, and put myself out there. Do I like being out there and being visible? No, I still don't like it. But I know if I lean into that, that's going to be good for me. And for example, when I started, doing Instagram lives and stuff and social media, it really did bring me a lot of really amazing opportunities. So I lean into it, even if it makes me uncomfortable. Your midheaven tells you what you should lean into.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah,
That's
very
good. That's
much.
good to know. And I love that your books, like I haven't read them, but it sounds like they're very simple and breaks it down in something that I could understand because sometimes you pick up these astrology
Yeah.
books and you're like, this is like Greek to me. I have no clue what this is.
Oh
This
my
doesn't
God.
help, right?
When I started studying astrology back in the day, I mean, you can see me wince here. The books were so dry. And so here I am at 15 years old, and I still got my first books, by the way. I'm with these books that are so incredibly dry and boring. For a 15-year-old with a mind all over the place, that was hard. But the thing is, I wanted to learn bad enough that I'm like, okay, I'm just got to suck it up and figure this out. And so it was a very dreadful beginning. And I had no teachers, no one to explain it to me. I did do it all the hard way. Same with tarot. And my tarot deck at the time was the Marseilles. That was my first deck. That's a hard deck to work with, but it was all that was available in the store. I didn't have a choice. And
Yeah.
all it came with is that little white book. I had no teachers. I had to figure it out the hard way. But my determination was there. And so one of the things I thought when I write books, I want books that are friendly, that are not written from that really patriarchal perspective. I want things that are humorous, that are fun. I think we learn better when we're having a good time.
Hmm.
Yes,
I
I
agree
agree.
with that.
Yeah. Mm.
That's one thing about podcasts I think that are great because you can get the information out. You can have it can be lighthearted even when it's a deeper subject, you can still be
Yes.
somewhat lighthearted to bring it out, and people are listening and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, I wonder
Yes.
what my, sun sign or midheaven or right. This gets people interested and wants to find out more information about it.
Yes. And podcasts are lovely because you can put on your headset while you're cooking dinner, listen to people chat about things. They're so convenient and so user friendly. We're very lucky to live in this age where we can have these podcasts and the access to this information, or the YouTube channels. I use
Right.
YouTube all the time. YouTube, how do you do this HTML? Let me just go to YouTube. I mean, we have all of this at our fingertips. If we use it wisely, we can learn, we can grow, we can get entertained. And for those of us who are doing the podcast or appearing on them, it's an opportunity to really help folks. It
Mhm.
really is.
Yeah.
It
Well,
really
and
is.
yeah, and I mean that was part of our mission when we started this. Well, just to get this information out to people so people can see all these different avenues that they can go down and what piques their interest, right? Because I'm
Mm,
like a eternal lifelong learner, and it's something that I love. I love learning. I love reading.
Yeah.
I love listening and finding out information. And Mom, you're like that as well. You love learning new things, and it's just like all these opportunities because you're right, between YouTube and podcasts, and there's just so much.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky. You know, how often do you just pick it up and Google or
yes,
something, like give me this information, right?
it's at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a Virgo. Virgos love to learn. They love to teach. So for you, I mean, and I think here's one thing I think too. No matter what sign you are, learning keeps you young.
Yes, it
Learning,
does.
I mean, I don't understand people who don't read books. What's wrong with you? Or who aren't curious about things. I'm like, I like to say I'm very nosy, but I mean, sometimes I get these wild tangents. I woke up one day, and I like to share a story because it's so stupid, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I wonder how bowling balls are made. And I had to get up and I had to go research and watch YouTube to see how they're made because I needed to know this. Why? I don't even bowl. I just wanted to know. And so I don't understand people who don't ask questions, who don't want to know, or who don't think critically. I just got into a disagreement with someone online, which I hate doing. But it was someone who was leaving this very, very foolish remark on something my sister wrote. And so I came and I said, well, cite your sources. And they couldn't. How come? Because they're too lazy to go do the research. Why would you not want to do research and have a researched factual argument? Or why would you just want to know what you're talking about? I mean, I don't know. But I think it's good for our brains to read, to listen to podcasts, to take classes all the time. It's good for us. Keeps the brain going.
Well, I've had people ask me, why do you ask so many questions? And it's like because I need to know. You know,
Yes.
I need to know. That's why I ask the questions. I don't like to sit there and think, okay, what I need to know about this when somebody's having a conversation with me, even, it's like I can hardly wait to get the conversation over. So if they haven't given me the details during the conversation, I'm right over trying to find out what they meant by what they said. It's important, right? And even when the kids were little, I was going to the library and looking up stuff to find out why things were the way they were, and how to change
Yes.
it, right? Yeah.
Yes. And, my father was a Virgo like you. And my father was also somebody who liked to know how things work too. And I would come over to his house when he was, much older, and he'd be watching the Travel Channel. I'm like, why are you watching that? He goes, well, I want to see these other places, because he couldn't travel. And he was very curious about that. And that was something that really fed his head. And he was always trying to learn. And, he had his full mind all the way till the end, was still reading newspapers, watching his shows and stuff. That was good because it kept the brain going. Even my aunt, who's 103 years old, she reads. She's on Facebook, which is a gas, but tries to understand technology. She's really up on current events, and I think that's why she's doing so well for 103 years old. that curiosity, that desire to know something. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
just can't imagine not wanting to know something, not wanting to learn something every day. I just don't get that.
No, me either.
Me either.
Teach me.
Well, there's so much out there to learn, right? And I love how you said that you just, because I do the same. I'm just like YouTube, ChatGPT. How do I, well, things even for our business, it's like, how do I use this in Canva? Like, I don't know, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to teach myself because I can, as long as I can find the sources to do it. So I love that we're on here talking about these things and people are now knowing I can just go get Teresa's books and then I can learn it in
Yeah.
simple man language instead of these dry books that, I mean, we've come a long way with that stuff too, right? Because a lot of the old texts and things like that were very dry and
Yeah,
very,
and
And
confusing. Confusing.
yeah, yes. And, and again, no offense against dudes either, but they're written really from a male perspective. And sometimes when you go back, I'm like, oh, I like men and all that, but oh, this doesn't sound like anything that's going to apply to me. And I also like something with humor. If
Mhm.
a book has humor, I'm going to like it. Now, there is one astrology book I have that's very, very old. It's wrapped in plastic. And my girlfriend, her mother was a astrologer. That's the person who introduced me to astrology when I was 15. And the book is out of print. But after she died, she gave me the book because her daughter wasn't interested in astrology, but I was. By that time I was working as a professional. And that book, what I love about it is it's not dry. It's a very serious astrology book, but it's not dry. And
Mhm.
it was really fascinating for me. I love that book. I think it's called How to Astro-Analyze Yourself by Ilya Chamberlain.
Oh,
Again, out of print. It's got a very 70s cover, but it's probably my favorite astrology book. Really deeply influenced me.
so do you
Beautiful.
find that because now you do astrology professionally, do you find that you still reference back to some of these books when you're doing different things?
Rarely, rarely. It becomes automatic after you've done it for a long time. Same with tarot. But once in a while, I'll come up with something. I'm like, I wonder what this transit means. Let me go ahead and take another peek and get a perspective here. Because
Right.
sometimes you will find yourself drawing a blank or maybe thinking, I don't know if my perspective here is really right. Let me just go check that. And astrology is very analytical, so double checking never hurts. But for the most part, it's very automatic for me. Even like looking at the math, when I do, like, I can look at something and I'm like, oh, this planet is 90-degree angle. This is 120 degrees. This is 180 degrees. I just see it automatically now. And sometimes that's faster for me to just look at a chart real quickly and see what's going on than to go to an ephemeris and go through everything or to go on a software even. I
Right.
can just look at it and like, oh yeah, dun, 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 dun. you know, so same with tarot. I think one thing too, tarot and astrology, for people who are good at pattern recognition, they usually do well with tarot and astrology. So if
Okay.
you are good at pattern recognition, you'll be a natural for it. And that's something I'm actually naturally good at.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's
Very
interesting.
interesting. Yes,
Yeah. See
very much.
all the things we're learning. But
Yeah.
I do. I just love, I love all, well, I love all things metaphysical and woo.
Yes.
Not that astrology is, or even tarot is necessarily that woo, but I just love how there's these bases for it and we can, use it to curve our lives in different ways or send us down paths or make us aware of
Yes.
potential things that we're like, ooh, okay, the tarot card said that. How am I going to work around that? Because I don't want that to happen anymore.
And I'm one of these people too that I have to keep an open mind for different types of modalities and different ways of thinking. People can get also very stuck in their astrology thinking, which I'm not one of those. I like what I like, but I'm always nosy about the other systems, other people's ways of looking at things. I love numerology. I'm interested in palmistry, mediumship, all of it. I like it all. I want to know. And even if I never use it, I still like to know about it.
Mhm.
And sometimes, when you learn from somebody else, you get a different perspective. It's like, never thought of that. let me go ponder that for a little bit. Maybe that's something I am going to incorporate into my own practice, or maybe not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's very,
absolutely.
it's all very adventurous too, if you think about it.
Yes.
Right? It really is. And if you're a curious person, then you want to be adventurous because you want to find out. So yeah, that's what I like about all the modalities and
Yes.
what we do with them. It's like walking down another road, you know. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me
That's a
something new.
beautiful way to say it. Yes, walking down a different road. I love that. And you know what's really funny is some people do get so hung up on their own perspective. And you'll see people like arguing about this thing in astrology or that thing in tarot. And, you know, I just think that's foolish. There's room for all of us. And there needs to be people with different perspectives because, for example, I mean, I don't read for the public any longer, but there might be some people who come to me and they don't like my style and they need somebody maybe a little fluffier, or maybe they prefer a different astrological system, or maybe they're not a tarot fan. You know, so having all of this variety, even if it's different than yours and you don't agree with it, is good because, as my father used to say, there's a lid for every pot. And we have all this variety for people to choose from so they can find their right reader. You're no longer stuck with the only reader in town. You can go on the internet and you can find somebody who really
Yep.
works for you. I mean, that's how I found my astrologer online.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's so true. We were just having that conversation not too long ago. It's like with Reiki and, well, any modality really, it's like go to somebody that fits you, that gets
Yes,
you the way that you like to work, you know? It's like going for a massage. Some people want to be like, and somebody, you know, deep,
that's
deep.
me.
Me too.
did you dig it? Dig it? Yeah.
Yes.
But if they were all floofy, we wouldn't enjoy that. So, I think
No.
it's great that there's so many different people that teach these things and know these things and can do these offerings. So I think
And not
it's
everybody,
Absolutely.
and not everybody's energy is mix, you know?
That is true. You're
You know,
dead on accurate with that.
yeah, it's, we
There's
just,
some people you can't read.
no, and there's some people that are just icky energy and you just don't want to have anything to do with them really either. So, I mean, even as
yeah.
a person that teaches that, we still have the opportunity to say, I think you should probably find somebody else, you know?
And you know, the sad thing is sometimes if you get somebody and you don't connect with them, they get very, very angry and then they're out to destroy you, which is so bizarre. I mean, it's so bizarre. I find that really weird because sometimes it's just the person's not for you. I had a reading once many years ago and I went with some friends and like, oh my God, this person's so great. And everybody was coming out saying this was the best ever. And I'm like, wow, cool, can't wait. I got in there, we were not a match. She didn't get one thing. She was way off. It was like she was reading for a complete stranger. And, you know, she was lovely. She was nice. And I came out, they're like, how was it? I said, it didn't resonate. And even to this day, I can still look back on that reading and remember it. Nothing resonated. It's not because the reader wasn't skilled. She was very skilled. Everyone loved her, but she wasn't able to work with me. Did I go hoot and holler and write a nasty review? No, I'm like, okay, she's awesome, but not for me.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
for me. And we have to
Exactly.
remember that also as practitioners, that there are going to be people that, for whatever reason, they're not your person. And it's better to say if you're not feeling that connection, you don't think I'm the person for you. What's really weird though, sometimes I've had people that I didn't think I connected with at all. And I don't think they thought I connected either, but they still got readings from me. And I never understood that. Like, why are you coming back here? I don't know if they were entertained by me or what it was, but there were a few that it's just like we didn't really gel, but who knows?
Yep. Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
People are
Well,
funny.
people are funny.
We're not.
And so where can everybody find you?
The best way to find me is always my website, thetarotlady.com. That's where you can find, that's my hub for everything. You can find my books, my classes, events that I'm going to be doing. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm the Tarot Lady is my handle there. I am on there more than anything else. I'm on Threads too. I don't spend a whole lot of time on the other social media things, Facebook a little bit. And my handle is always the Tarot Lady. And so that's the best way to find me. And I teach online over on Patreon. And so over on Patreon is another hub where I do a lot of activity. But if you want to find all of that, just go to thetarotlady.com.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So if you had a final thought to leave with us and our viewers, what would it be?
Ooh, a final thought? Wow. I didn't even listen to this. I didn't even think about what would be a final thought. I think the most important thing that I would say is we are right now living in some very volatile times, and you may be tempted to stick your head in the sand and really feel scared. But right now, the world needs brave people. And astrology and tarot are ways to help you to find your courage, to get out there and fight the good fight. Pluto's in Aquarius. We need everybody out there doing their part to lift people up, to help our community, to look out for each other, and to make sure there's justice for all. We're all in this together, so we might as well do it right.
Beautiful.
Perfect. I love that.
Well said.
Yeah, we love to ask that question and we like it because then usually catches people off guard. And then I think it just feels
Yes.
more authentic and more, just
Yeah.
kind of whatever's channeled in at that moment. So we appreciate you so much coming back and joining us on our podcast. You're always such a wealth of information. We'd love to have you back on another time down the road, and good luck with your book, and
Yes.
excited to see your book on May 4th, and we'll put that out in our newsletter for anybody that follows. Please follow and subscribe to us. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Barb. And thank you to everyone for listening too. And I'll see everyone around the internet.
All
Take
right.
care.
Yes, you bet you
Yeah.
will. Okay, thank you. Bye.
And
Thank you.
and we will see everybody on the next one.